Well, good morning. This is Pastor Michael Brown coming to you again with the segment of Stories of Hope from the heart of our community. Today, my guest is Pastor Jason Olson. Jason is the pastor of Centerpoint City Church here in Kalamazoo. But we're not talking about City Church today. We're going to be having a conversation about safe families. Is that right?
That's exactly right.
Right. So safe families. Wow. Give me an idea of what safe families is.
Yeah, safe families for children is like a ministry of the greater church in many communities. You know, we just had the leader of Safe Families in town for a lunch, and I think he said over 70 cities and numerous countries, maybe it's over 100 cities in the States where Christians who are trained by professionals to be host families can help families in need who might have children that are perhaps facing a crisis, the family's facing a crisis. Christian families intercept, if you will, the children and help house them while mom and dad get on their feet, while they find a job, while they have surgery, whatever the case may be. Sometimes even mom and baby or babies will come and live with a family where the state is not involved. The church is being the church. And it's really based on this idea of what the church was known for in the past, this kind of this big fancy Greek word that literally means loving the stranger.
So what precipitated this? Because this is not the same thing as foster care. Right?
Yeah, no, it's not the same thing as foster care. You know, the program is probably a little over 20 years old in the States. It started out of a place called Lydia Home in Chicago, started by a gentleman named Dr. David Anderson, who was a psychologist and a social worker of types, who was who had the job of assessing children in the hospital who had been abused and what was going to take place, where they were going to go foster care and that kind of thing. And his compassion came out of the fact that he was meeting so many moms who were facing these moments of crisis, and they really had nobody to call.
Right.
And we heard him say this past week, where he kind of was a product of the Jesus movement, and he said he started to think about what could be the most radical thing that he could do. What's the most radical thing that Christians could do in our culture today? And he really answered that question. He really feels like God answered that question by saying, take in other people's children, receive nothing for that, and be the church in that way. And now it's amazing how many children's lives have been affected in such a positive way. People have really avoided losing their children to foster care.
Right. And so you said something earlier. You said people who are trained.
Yeah.
What's training look like?
Well, training looks like this, because my wife and I are a safe family. We have been. And training includes having the family coach supervisor, who is effectively a social worker, coming into the home, looking over the home, making sure it's a safe home, but then also doing background checks with the moms, the dads, any children who might be over 18 in the home, to make sure that, if somebody else is going to entrust their child to this family, that they are actually going to be safe.
Yeah. So how many families do you believe, or do you know how many families have been served in Kalamazoo through Safe Families?
Wow. Yeah, that's a great question. So when we moved back to Kalamazoo in 2012, I was on staff at Centerpoint Church, and it was really an overflow of a need that we had as a family. We're an adoptive family. We have 2 children that we adopted. And we learned pretty quickly that people who are adopting or fostering experience a lot of just difficult situations where they need support. And so we kind of created a support group for foster and adoptive families. And while we were launching that ministry and meeting together with other adoptive and foster families, we learned about safe families. And that is where we kind of developed this thinking about maybe there's something else besides adoption, besides foster care, that really might even be closer to the heart of God. And so, and that's where it kind of was birthed out of that.
Okay, so right now, at what stage is Safe Families of Southwest Michigan?
Of Southwest Michigan, yeah.
At what stage is Safe Families of Southwest Michigan at right now?
So, as you know, because I invited you to one of the kind of initial meetings, we're really in a relaunch of Safe Families in Southwest Michigan. Prior to the relaunch, Safe Families was overseen by Bethany Christian Services, which is common even in other parts of Michigan, where Bethany kind of is the host for Safe Families in their community. But we actually will be able to oversee it ourselves because, as you know, we have a leadership council locally made up of pastors and lay people who have a passion for this. And so about a year ago, we started that process, and we've been coached by Safe Families of the national organization, which is based in Chicago. And as we've been kind of jumping through all those hoops to become an alliance chapter, we are now at the stage where we've raised a decent amount of money, enough money to hire a chapter director, which would be kind of effectively our executive director. And so even now, right now, we're receiving resumes from people who feel like they have the capacity and the calling to be a director of a nonprofit like Safe Families.
What's some of the qualifications are you looking for?
It's a great question. That's such great questions. The qualifications, I would say personally, and this is a part of what we look at. The first and foremost is a passion for helping vulnerable children and families in a time of need, and really having and then turning that passion into action, where this person is committed to making sure. And this is actually, like, as a leadership council, we say, you know what? We don't know how many families it's going to take in Southwest Michigan to do this. Sometimes we've said 100 families trained who are ready to go. My personal goal is that we would never say no to a need that comes up. And we want to meet those needs. And so that's kind of where we're at right now. And so we're trying to hire this person who would have a passion and enthusiasm for this ministry, who then also can really do really two important things, maybe three. Have a really strong relationship with churches in Southwest Michigan, really strong relationships with community organizations who would be referral agencies. And then also, of course, their staff in the host families. So it's really kind of three big pieces.
Are there any particular qualifications that you have? I mean, because you can have somebody that's passionate, excited, and everything, but if you got qualifications, we need that.
Well, I think experience is going to be a big piece of this. So I've had a number of people who hear me talk about it, and they're passionate about it. Probably not qualified yet. I would say, as you know, they probably got to have a little bit of life underneath their belt. You know, that's been lived. So some wisdom that goes along with that. Certainly, we're seeking somebody who has a 4-year degree in some kind of a qualified field, perhaps a master's degree. Somebody who has some education, has some wherewithal for leadership. You know, it's really going to be somebody who's going to lead a team of volunteers and also a staff, a paid staff. And so the person would be able to do all of those things.
Now, suppose someone's listening to our program this morning and they said, man, that God's been speaking to me about that. And I really want to throw my hat in the ring. How would they do that?
Well, they can find us a couple of ways. Safe-families.org is the national website. Safe-families.org. And then they go on there, they search locations, they'll find Southwest Michigan. And there'll be some information there. Also on Facebook, Safe Families of Southwest Michigan. You can find us there. The job description will be posted there. People can find it. And then they can find our, we actually have a great phone number. I don't even know if you probably saw this because it's coming through. 844-SAFE-FAM. How about that? I got so excited when we got that number. I've always wanted a fancy phone number. So
844-SAFE-FAM. I like that.
I like it too.
That. That's easy to remember.
It is. And you know what I'm hopeful for that, Pastor Mike, is that when there's a mom who's got a kid or a couple kids and she's in a tough spot, she might see our Safe Families information somewhere. She'll see that phone number.
Yeah.
She'll remember it.
Yeah.
And then she'll call and we'll be able to help them. You know,
Uh-huh.
and here's the great thing about Safe Families is that this is not just about the average stay for a child in a Safe Families home is about 6 weeks.
Okay.
But we hope that the relationship between the host family and the family that they are serving lasts forever.
We'll continue. Yeah.
They'll continue. They'll go to church together.
Yeah.
They'll have Christmas together. They'll eat together. It's almost like the crisis creates the friendship.
Mm-hmm. So you talked about a couple of things. One thing you talked about was volunteers.
Yes.
Then you talked about paid staff.
Right.
But we only talked about the CEO position, is it? But then, or the director position.
Right.
What are the paid staff, and are those positions out to be filled now?
They are. So because we're in that fundraising phase right now,
Mm-hmm.
our hope is that even with some of the work we've just done, it'll kind of bounce us past the $100,000 mark, which is where Safe Families says you can then hire the second staff person. So
Okay.
our hope is once we hire this executive director, that one of their first tasks will be to hire the full-time, what they call the family coach supervisor.
Okay.
And that person is, like I said, probably somebody who has that social work kind of shepherd type, gifting where they can talk to a mom who's in crisis, connect them to a host family, and work with all of the resources available to make sure that there's a good match made. And then there's also a position for somebody who's going to kind of hold it all together, that administrative person.
Okay.
And so as Safe Families has coached us, they believe that at a local alliance level, we need to have those three positions. And beyond that, it's all volunteer.
Okay.
So it's a pretty scaled down, organization that
Mhm.
that serves a ton of people with just a few paid folks.
And so right now we're still in the fundraising phase.
Yeah.
And can you tell us where we are with fundraising and what our goal is,
Yeah.
and what is the timeline on that
Right.
goal?
All of that. So what's happened is we're trying to get ourselves to that place where we can hire.
Right.
But we certainly believe that the churches of Southwest Michigan are fully capable of funding this ministry in
Mhm.
the future.
Sure.
The budget is, around $200,000 a year to fund those three staff people, the administrative costs.
Mhm.
My personal goal is that maybe it's going to be a little more than that, because here's my hope is that having been a safe family, having little ones in our home, having 6 kids of our own at the time, that when we're serving the host families, we can also bless them a little bit.
Right.
On Friday nights, we're going to send them out to eat with some gift cards or
Okay.
whatever. So there's a
Yeah,
little
yeah.
fees with that kind
That's
of thing.
good.
And we are serving Southwest Michigan. It's a
Yeah.
big area. It's like 6 or 7 counties.
Yeah.
We may need to add some more staff down the way. But I firmly believe that 15 to 25, 30 churches who are giving $5,000 to $10,000 a year out of their mission budget to serve our own people and our own
Right.
children.
Yeah.
Honestly, Pastor Brown, something you said at our first initial meeting for the restart at that dessert, you told a story about a young lady that was staying at the mission,
Yeah.
and she had, I think, a son.
Yep.
Why don't just remind us a little bit of that story?
It was a young lady staying at the mission. She had a son. He had never felt cared for like he did at the mission.
Right.
And all of a sudden, her abusive boyfriend came back. And she was in the process of leaving with him. And I just happened to be here that evening. And the son came over and he grabbed me around my leg. I mean, literally broke my heart, because he grabbed me around the leg and he said, "Pastor, please don't make us go."
Mm.
And I knew that first of all, I wasn't making them leave.
Right.
I knew that it probably wasn't going to end well if they did, and there was nothing that I could do to stop it, because that's her son.
Right.
And just to hear his voice and to know the desperate situation that even this child felt
Right.
was about to unfold right now, that was that situation for me. And I wish that I could have even told her,
Right.
Look, I know you want to, go off and see your boyfriend. Go ahead, but let's find a safe place for your son.
Right.
and then we could check on him, and the safe family could take care of him for a few days or something, like that. But just to pull that child back out of that desperate situation, man,
Yeah.
I tell you what, that just
Yeah.
it still wears on me,
Right.
when I talk about that story, because I see that so often here at the mission. Moms that come in, they either need just a break,
Right.
because they've been dealing with 2, 3, 4, 5, and we've had them as many as 8, 12 kids.
Yeah.
And mom is the only one, the only one taking care of everything. And she just needs a break. And then you'll have a mom that has 1 or 2 kids, and she can't get away to even start a job.
Right.
And everybody's saying, well, why don't you get a job? Well, she can't take the kids with her,
Right.
And she doesn't have any family, so she needs help.
Right.
And that's the kind of support we're talking about, isn't it?
And it's amazing, because the story that you just shared is similar when we were a Safe Family, and we still are, but while Safe Families was functioning in about 2019, my wife and I, we got a call, and there was a mom here at the mission. She had just one little one, and she had just gotten out of jail. She was trying to get a job.
Yeah.
She had some interviews lined up, but she knew that she couldn't afford to pay for the care for her child and have the time she needed to get the job. And so we took that little guy in, and I think we had him, I don't know, a few weeks, maybe a month, whatever. But I tell you, the reason why I'm doing all of this work to help restart it is because I want to be a safe family again.
Yeah.
And the reason why is having another family's child in our home gave all of my kids another thing to focus on that was close to the heart of God. And I'll tell you, it's kind of selfish on my part, because we love it so much, and I love it so much, because what happens is when my kids get together now, my kids are older now, and some of them are home, some of them aren't. When they get together, they talk about our Safe Families kids.
Yeah.
And then they even have like language they use, because they'll speak in ways like the kids did when they were with us.
Okay.
So it changes you in such a great way. It's just such a great program.
Oftentimes I find when people, whether it's Safe Families or whether it's helping at the mission or things like that, we look at it from the standpoint of what we are giving.
Yeah.
And not too often do we look at it at what we have the possibility of getting.
It's amazing.
Out of it. And I get that, you don't want to feel selfish.
Right. Right.
But don't let that stop you from reaching out and serving to help people that are less fortunate than you.
Yeah. I got to tell you another story. So there was another family. They lived up in the apartments off West Main. The dad worked at the packing plant up in Plainwell. Mm-hmm. They were from the Congo, so recent immigrants to the States. They had a 3-year-old, and mom was pregnant with twins. Mm. And this is such a great, beautiful example of our own hospital working in such a great way. Mom's there getting care. They realize she's going to deliver twins, and they can tell she doesn't have help. They're not from here. They need help. Mm-hmm. And so Safe Families stepped in. We took the 3-year-old. And when the mom gave birth to the twins, another Safe Family took the mom and the twins.
Oh, wow.
And for, I'm going to think 6 weeks, because the husband needed to go to work every day. Uh-huh. We did that, and it was such a great reunion to see all of them come back together. And we continued to meet with them, and they even called on us one night to watch, Kadesh was her name, and the twins while they went to a wedding. And we just loved it. They moved away to Ohio, but I still on WhatsApp get videos. I just recently got a video of the daughter and the twins, who are now, of course, much bigger. And it's such a blessing to still even be in their life in that way.
Yeah. I know a lot of times people, they sit at home and they talk about different social situations that you'll see. And people will say, somebody ought to do something. I mean, somebody ought to do something. And I would just challenge you to ask yourself the question, is it important enough for you to be that somebody?
Right.
Did God make it that important to you, or did he bring it to light for you to raise your hand and say, I will?
Right.
I know years ago, my wife and I, my wife and I adopted 2 kids, and they're grown now. They're older now. I ain't gonna tell how old they are, but
They're as old as me. So,
but yeah, they are. And so, but it's just the relationship that we have, the experience that it was, it's just something I'll never forget.
Right.
And I know that's a little bit different than what we're talking about now. But you look at how society is, and a lot of us complain about different aspects of society. But when you have the chance to have an impact in a child's life or in the life of a family, like that is your opportunity to make a change and to be able to change. So we're talking about, we've got we talked about 2 paid positions we're talking about.
2, 3, probably the administrative.
Yeah, director. We're talking about the administrative position, and then we're also talking about how to support this ministry.
Right. We need the volunteers.
Can't
do it without the volunteers.
So many opportunities to plug in, whether it be volunteering, you volunteering to do something, or whether it's even you giving them, cash, giving some money. To help both. Yeah, right. Exactly. Do both, because I believe some of the folks that are on our board do both.
Right. Oh yeah.
And so there's multiple ways to be able to help. Let's pause right now. Why don't you give us that phone number and that website again?
Okay. Yep. safe-families.org. 844-SAFE-FAM.
Okay.
And one of the things that you made me think about there is how somebody might be listening thinking, gosh, I really love how that sounds. I can give some money, but I don't think I have it. I don't have a big enough house. I got too many kids, or I'm at that wrong stage of life to have somebody come and live with me.
Right.
I got a word for you, just a second. But there's other things that folks can do.
Uh-huh.
They have what's called family friends. Okay. And that's somebody who kind of supports the host family from perhaps making a meal for them, that kind of thing. And there's a couple of other volunteer positions. If you go on the website, you can see there's about 4 or 5 different ways that volunteers can serve the families. But I got to tell you, we just had Dr. Anderson here last week, and he said this. He said, Safe Families has taken off in the United Kingdom. And he said, Safe Families is growing amazingly. I think it's a crazy story, but he said, all of the churches that are doing it in the UK are 50 people churches or less.
Wow.
The average age, 65.
Wow.
Of the people who are doing it. So they've captured this vision. It's people who are probably empty nesters, recognizing, look, we got a house, we got a room, and hey, we're not just waiting until heaven, right? Yeah. God's called us to do some things, and so this is what we're going to do. And another story he told is about Australia. It's growing in Australia. And he talked about one of these Marvel movie guys. I think it's Hawkeye. I think his name is. Anyhow, apparently he's a believer. Him and his wife are funding this through like 1,100 churches in Australia to go through a bunch of churches to train families to make sure that vulnerable children in Australia are cared for. Isn't that awesome?
That is. You never think about the different opportunities. I never thought about that. You just mentioned about just making a meal.
Right.
Being able, and it's funny because somebody called my wife and I yesterday and they said, have you all eaten yet? And we said no. And they said, well, we've stumbled on something called campfire chicken. I don't know if you know what that is.
Not yet, but I hope I do.
but it's where you take your meal, your chicken, your potatoes, your broccoli, or whatever you're going to put in it, and you put it in. You make a aluminum foil pouch.
Right on.
And then you put a little bit of Italian seasoning in there, and you seal it up, and just put it in the oven, let it cook. You got everything in there for a whole meal. Right. And they were telling us about that. They said, we want to make you all a campfire dinner.
Yeah.
Look at how simple that is. And it's great that they thought of my wife and I, but think about doing that for a family that really has children and they just need some help.
And that's the thing. Like they could do it for the Safe Family while they're hosting kids. Yeah. And then once the mom and the children go to her with the mom again, then the host family can do that for the mom and the kids. Take the load off a little bit, right? Yeah. It's just that when they're feeling like they just need that little break, I think you put it really well. Mm-hmm. sometimes they just need a break.
That's right. I mean, because life gets stressful enough for all of us. And so sometimes you just need to be able to step back and breathe. And I know some of the families that have a lot of children like that, they don't even have time to stop and pray.
Right, right.
Because you got kids crying over here, you got
Right.
kids crying over there, you're trying to make the meal, you're doing the
Right.
laundry, you clean the
Right.
house, all of this different stuff going. And so, if this sounds like something God would have you to plug into to support it in any of those ways, whether it be just to make a quick meal, whether it is to be a safe family and to go through the training, or whether it is to help finance it, or whatever that is, you can find out how you can help by getting a hold of Safe Families through
safe-families.org or 844-SAFE-FAM. And if you call that phone number, I believe you can leave a message for me, and I'll get it directly on my cell phone. And I'm telling you, we're passionate about this. If you're interested in it, we're going to call you. You never know. It might be like Pastor Mike. I texted him the day before that dessert meal. I thought, I don't think he's going to say yes, but the Lord told me to text him. He came. He's on our leadership team. He told us that if we bring this to Kalamazoo, it'll change our city.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe it. And I know that God is going to support this effort. I know there's some people that we talk about getting involved in certain things, but how would you like the partnership with something that God is doing and you know it?
Yeah.
So this is one of those things. So I'm hoping that if you're listening to this program, you'll reach out to Safe Families and see what you can do to be a part to support this effort. Jason, we just about come to the end of our time right now. I'd like to pray for you and Safe Families as we get ready to close our program.
I love that. Thanks.
So, Father, I just thank you for Pastor Jason, God. I thank you for his leadership, Father, and just the way that he is taken a hold of this effort, and he's been the driving force to pull the board together and the different volunteers together just to get this thing to the point where it is right now. Father, right now, I pray that you would speak to the hearts and the minds of those people that are under the sound of this broadcast right now.
Right.
That you would stir up in their hearts to be involved in what you are doing to save some of these families and create a safe place to be a safe family in Southwest Michigan, here in Kalamazoo. Father, we believe it right now.
Yep.
And we want to see your hand move in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Well, once again, I'm Pastor Michael Brown, Kalamazoo Gospel Ministries. My guest has been Pastor Jason Olson this time, and we will hope to see you here again next week, same time. God bless.